Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to another edition of News in Focus live on Radio Al Ansar International, broadcasting on the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Peter Maritzburg 105.6 FM, and audio streaming on www.alansar.org.za. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaba bikum. My name is Yunus Sacoor and I will be in your company for the next 2 hours, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. I will be interviewing guests shortly. Today, the date is the 21st of August, 2024, equivalent to the 17th of Safar al-Muzaffar, 1446 AH. On tonight's show, we're going to briefly chat about the poor performance of municipalities and the way forward, because this has been quite a significant subject over the years. And we're going to talk about the financial sustainability of municipalities to keep tariffs affordable, which is not the case. But we're going to briefly chat about the different form of taxes and rates that people pay and what do they expect for those rates and taxes. But before we commence with that topic for tonight, I want to briefly chat about the current situation in Palestine, and it has been announced that there were airstrikes in the last 48 hours across the Gaza Strip, and more than 1,600 children have been killed, and a large number of people have been killed as a result of this strike. So we know that the atrocities that are taking place in Palestine, for the last 9 to 12 months is a huge problem. And in the last 24 hours, 50 Palestinians were killed with these strikes as well. And we know many of these are children, infants, and the snipers are targeting the children, and many of them are getting beheaded, etc. And the parents are trying to muster the body parts to bury these infants. So this is a great atrocity that's taking place. It's basically inhumanity to mankind. And unfortunately, much of the people around the world are complicit and saying nothing beside a few people that are concerned. And we in South Africa, all we could do is make duas and raise, our objections to what's happening. So with me on the line this evening, I have Hazrat Mufti Ibrahim Smith, Damatul Barkat. He's the Amir of the Darul Ifta in the Western Cape. And he spoke, in Jummah about the situation, in Palestine. There's no food, no essentials allowed in Gaza, and the kind of atrocities that are taking place there. So I'd like to welcome Mufti Ibrahim Smith. Mufti Saab, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to News in Focus live on Radio Al Ansar International.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. MashaAllah, Yunus, and our listeners on Radio Al Ansar. Jazakallah khairan for this opportunity.
Mufti Saab, it's always a pleasure for us to interview you. And it's quite a windy day in Durban, and trees are, making noises, but not as bad as it was a couple of months ago. I'm sure in the Western Cape, you all have been eased of the floods there, and you're all back to recovery.
In actual fact, it's raining in the Western Cape. It's been raining 100% since 3 a.m. this morning. I am not in the Western Cape. I fled from there. No, I'm just kidding. I have some work in Johannesburg, so I'll only be returning sometime next week, inshallah. But there's some heavy rain that's been forecasted for the remainder of August.
Yeah, we need some of your rain in KZN, unlike the past where we were getting the rain and you all were having the drought. Although our dams are relatively full, but we need some rain to actually water the plants. In Durban, we just had bits and pieces, in the last couple of years. The winds are quite strong, but of concern to us is every day we're hearing more and more atrocities taking place in Palestine, and people are talking about ceasefires, etc. But the Zionists, are sort of indiscriminate in their bombings, and every day we see people being martyred. And the worst part of it is when you see footages of 2 to 3 day old children beheaded, and brains are all over the place, body parts are all over the place, and how can mankind live with this kind of situation, Mufti Saab?
You know that speaking about the ceasefire, it's very important to note that the US proposed a ceasefire plan. Hamas accepted, Israel objected, and then the US went with Israel's objections. and called Hamas terrorists for not accepting. So this is how they play. They're only playing with words. The Zionist state doesn't want a ceasefire. They want to continue exterminate our people. That side, ethnic cleansing, genocide, whatever term they've coined up, it is basically killing Muslims. It's a war against Islam. In the last 24 hours, I heard your introduction, more than 1,600 shuhada. And this is while the world is watching, and most of these people that were killed, they are children, you're right. And this is nothing new. Remember, they're doing exactly what Fir'aun did to their ancestors by taking out especially the male offspring, so that when you remove the male offspring from any community, then there won't be much resistance from the females that is left. So all these things are strategically planned, infanticide on a large scale, and collecting and harvesting also. We shouldn't forget to mention that they are also grave robbers. They harvest organs from these shuhada, and then they cut up these people and they put them in plastic bags, and then they dump them on trucks, and then they offload it like rubbish trucks. They just offload it in the streets, and sadly, those who are alive, they have to collect the remains of these people who've died during these incursions. So it's very, very sad what's happening as we're speaking right now, and no one has the power to intervene. And those who have the power to intervene are doing absolutely nothing. Gee.
From the time this sort of insurgent started, or this sort of so-called war started, it's been for 40, 50 years. But from October last year, more than 40,000 people have been shaheed, and another 10,000 are missing in rubble, likely dead. And a vast majority of buildings, schools, hospitals, etc., have been destroyed. And when you hear reports coming through from medical personnel and others on the situation out there, it's really tragic. And they don't even blink an eye, these soldiers. They're mocking, they're making a nuisance of themselves, and asking the people that, where is your God, where is your Allah? Now, they little realize that various battles at the time of the Sahaba Ikram took place. And when Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam gave, nasiha to the Sahaba, that comply with the rules of Sharia, don't miss your Salah, obey Allah's commandments, and the help of Allah will come. And in various battles, with a limited number of soldiers, alhamdulillah, the Sahaba were victorious. So the Zionists are of the opinion that they are victorious, but when the wrath of Allah befalls them in due course, he will blow them to smithereens. Mufti Sahab, you just want to comment on that, because, our job is to make du'as in South Africa, because we're physically not there on the ground. And we know that when you have one small calamity, it's like the end of the world. So, these people are losing their families, they're losing breadwinners, they're losing their possessions. They don't even have hospitals to go to. They don't even have food. And I know in one of your bayans you mentioned that basically there's no food or essential allowed in Gaza except the polio vaccine. So these people are blocking aid that's coming there, to annihilate the people of Gaza.
Yes, imagine nothing is going in, but they want to put up a humanitarian front by saying we stopping the polio or the spread of polio by sending in vaccines, as if they're doing people a favor. That side, having destroyed most of Gaza, we saw the footage from the United Nations as they entered Khan Yunus and other areas, completely destroyed. There's nothing left. There's no shelter. They bomb people during Fajr Salah. Over 100 shuhada there also. So not even the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is safe for the people. There's no escape. They can only wait for the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to come. And that help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will come, but it will come when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends it. Though one should never ever stop making dua or do whatever they can do for the sake of the Palestinian people. And to add to that now, they're busy driving out the people from Jerusalem. So that is where Al-Aqsa is actually situated. For those who don't know, they are busy with a massive campaign in dislocating many Palestinians from there, because that is the prize, that is the trophy. Gaza is just a distraction. They want to get people out, and in order to get people out, they have to make an example of another town, another place. In Gaza was the unfortunate place. But the resilience of our people, our shuhada there, and that's why I always tell the people, they don't criticize them, rather make dua. If you've seen some wrong from their side coming, we also also sinners. We in no better position than what they are, but they're fighting back with whatever they have. Any other nation would have given up, but they only have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala between them and between the Zionists. There's only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for them. Their amal, their actions, and whatever good they do will not go unnoticed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken it upon himself, and it comes in a hadith, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will assist those who are oppressed, walau ba'da hinin, even if it is after a while. So they think they are victorious, but the victory will be short-lived. Yatihuna fil ard, says the Quran. They will continue to scuttle and scramble across the land. There will be no fixed place for them. There will be no capital city for them. They will wander, and they will continue to wander until the arrival of the Dajjal.
No, Mufti Sahib, it brings me to the sort of situation where we've seen footage recently in Aqsa where our Mujahideen have been marching, and the cops were just retreating just near Aqsa. Because if you recall the incident when, the army went out to try to destroy the Kaaba, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they came with a whole lot of elephants, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used birds to cast stones to the elephants and blew their ears out, and these elephants to smithereen. I think it was during the time of Abraha. And Allah protected the Kaaba. So obviously there's a similarity that now that they're targeting outside, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making the people shaheed. The people are so resilient that they are now saying that Allah is with us, and as long as Allah is with us, we will continue to fight. And if we become shaheed, then Jannat al-Firdaus is our abode. So the situation is such now where Allah in this world is showing us a similar situation that took place during the time of Kaaba, when the elephants were wanting to go, and the armies were using the elephants to go, and how Allah destroyed them. Perhaps you just want to draw a parallel between the two situations, Mufti Sahib.
It's very, very similar, that Allah is showing us today that with all our strength, all our numbers, totaling over 2 billion, all our military might, all our planes, so-called Islamic countries, all our opulence and whatever we have, we cannot avail the people of Palestine to anything. We cannot assist them in any way possible except through certain donations and du'as. So Allah is showing who is in power, who is in control, and who has the authority. And remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when the Quraysh actually said that the army is advancing and we will be destroyed, and Abu Talib told them that inna lil bayti rabban sayahmi, that indeed this Kaaba, it has a Lord that will protect it divinely. And that is what the people of Palestine are saying also, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect Palestine, and Allah destroyed them amazingly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because they were on the land. And today the situation is reversed. Our people are being struck from above. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cause the earth to swallow them. And that is what one hadith says, prophesies that as they will march onto the Kaaba also, that the earth will swallow them. So there Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used the sama, and Allah sent birds with stones weighing 114 grams. If you do research, you'll see the weight of that stone is only 114 grams, but the velocity and speed that stone came down, it had the impact of a missile on the people of Abraha. So Allah who did it that time, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is still capable of annihilating and destroying them. Yeah, we just need to persevere. We just need to focus on protecting the house of Allah, every house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala across the globe, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send his unseen help, inshallah.
And the leader of that time, Fir'aun, he basically was tracking down the followers of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, and when they proceeded towards the sea, and he then announced that, where are you guys going to go now? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the command to Musa alayhi salatu wasalam that put your asa on the water, and pathways opened up for his followers to go through. And then Fir'aun thought he is now the Lord, and when he went, he was drowned, and then it was too late for him to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Perhaps you just want to close with that incident, which obviously is a similar...
What a wonderful incident, that when the people of Musa alayhi salam said, and that is the nature of people, they become despondent, like how we are despondent. 11, he said that, inna la mudrakun, they said we are being caught here. We're in a place, a situation where there's no escape. So, similarly, like the people of Gaza, and he said, Ikalla inna ma'iya rabbi sayahdin. Never ever, my Allah is with me, and Allah will guide us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not only split the ocean for them, Allah split it so that they were 12 tribes, and 12 tribes of them passed through 12 separate pathways through the ocean, and it was like a window between each pathway where one tribe could see the other tribe. And believe you not, that was the only time that piece of earth ever saw the day, ever saw the sunlight, because the water separated and the sun's rays fell directly onto that part of the ocean, and they could see one another. This is when you have yaqeen and conviction in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah delivered the Zionist grand ancestors and grandparents and great-grandparents from such tyranny, and today they became the oppressors. They didn't take history lessons or heed from history, and history will repeat itself. Allah destroyed Fir'aun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, Allah will destroy them as well, G.
Ameen. Mufti Sahib, shukran, I think well presented. The message you're getting is that there is hope. Our martyrs and our mujahideen out there will continue with the struggle, and inshallah success is around the corner. All our objectives are here to make du'as, send whatever aid we can, and make du'as as far as possible for the protection of our people out there. Shukran Mufti Sahib for joining us, and do continue with the good work. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakumullah khairan wa alaikum salam wa barakatuh.
That was Mufti Ibrahim Smith. He just gave us a bit of a summary of what's happening in Gaza and a bit of advice on how to deal with the situation. And I think very important, he drew some parallels with the situation in Makkah when the army was attacking, and also the situation in the Red Sea when Musa alayhi salatu wasalam and his followers were proceeding. It's all in the Quran, the stories relating to these issues, and we should refresh ourselves and continue with our dua, our ibadat, and support to Gaza in whichever way and form. And inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept. On that note, we will have a short break, and inshallah after the break we will continue with our subject for this evening, the performance of municipalities, but we'll just talk about the taxes and what it's supposed to be used for.
Welcome to Simplex Radio. Visit our showroom for the full range of car audio. Our TV department carries top brands with quality LED panels, full HD to Ultra HD, and now the experience of Super Ultra HD. Visit our theater rooms and transform your home with brands like Onkyo, Integra, Denon, Boston Acoustics, Yamaha, and more for quality audio visual experience. Now available, full range of home appliances. A one-stop shopping experience. Call 031-306-4029 or Kenilworth Park, 202 Brickfield Road, Overport. Simplex Radio, the name you can trust.
Assalamu alaikum, lovely ladies. Come and join me, Aisha Jamal, at our Women's Day annual event at 189 West Road on the 24th of August at 10 a.m. See you there.
They convince the world to believe that terrorists look like beards and thobes. Now, as the facade cracks, one martyr after another, the world sees through the broken windows and now knows the true face of terrorism. It wears suits and ties and smiles behind lies.
Yellow and Sour Helping Hands with Aisha Jamal brings you the Animal Welfare Campaign. Help us make a difference.
Hey, little bird.
Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, verily, there is heavenly reward for every act of kindness done to a living animal. We are in need of cat food, dog food, blankets, shelter, weatherproof kennels, and funds towards the above, as well as towards urgent cases where animals require medical attention. WhatsApp 060-971-9955 or 084-3041-683. Drop-off zone 207 West Road, Overport. Yadul Ansar, making a difference.
There are over 200 million orphans globally. We can't help all of them. But what if we each helped just one? The Al Imdad Foundation now gives you an opportunity to help just one orphan from Syria or Palestine. For just 500 Rand per month, you can help safeguard the dignity of an orphan by assisting them with basic needs such as food, clothing, shelter, medical care, and attention. Our orphan sponsorship program allows you to track the progress of your orphan through regular feedback. Make a difference in the life of an orphan today. Visit alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
اللهم احفظ المسجد الأقصى من اليهود الحاقدين اللهم أعد المسجد الأقصى إلى رحاب المسلمين اللهم وطهر المسجد الأقصى من اليهود الغاصبين اللهم عليك بهم فإنهم لا يعجزونك يا قوي يا متين اللهم منزل الكتاب مجري السحاب هازم الأحزاب سريع الحساب اهزم اليهود وزلزلهم يا قوي يا عزيز.
Iqra Wafham. Read and understand the Holy Quran. Your program giving you the most powerful manual for life. It's the message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the last testament. The ayahs are recited, translated and explained for us to understand by various learned scholars of Islam. Comes to you every Sunday at 8 p.m. and Fridays at 10:30 p.m. Iqra Wafham. Read and understand.
Are you wondering what you missed on the Breakfast Rush with Nishal Sarawan? Here's a quick catch-up.
The game works quite easily. All you do is answer 5 general knowledge questions. With each correct answer, you get a chance to flip it. On the flip side, there's a prize. Or maybe not. Let's go to question number 2. How many times can you fold a paper in half?
7.
7 times. Correct. Choose a square and
Flip it.
exclusive to the Breakfast Rush on Radio Al Ansar.
We've spent this month reminiscing on Radio Al Ansar, and now it's time for the big finish. On the 30th of August, come and join us at the Conference Center for our grand finale event. We'll have special guests, a live audience, and giveaways you won't want to miss. It's the perfect end to our throwback celebration. You're invited to be part of it. August 30th. Don't miss the grand finale. Only on Radio Al Ansar.
Looking for a way to deepen your spiritual journey? Join us on Urban Woman Monday to Thursday, right after the 10 a.m. news. Together we'll complete the Holy Quran, one meaningful session at a time. Don't miss out. Tune in, inshallah, and transform your mornings with us.
Radio Al Ansar, 24/7, 365.
Ya Nabi, 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 Ya Nabi. Tu shamme risalat hai, आलम तेरा परवाना, तुम मेरी सादत है, आलम तेरा परवाना, तू माहे नबूवत है, ऐ जलवाए जानाना, तू शुम मेरी सादत या आलम तेरा परवाना, तू शुम मेरी सादत है, या आलम तेरा परवाना। जो साकिए कौसर के चेहरे से नकाब उठे, जो साकिए कौसर के चेहरे से नकाब उठे, हर दिल बन में खाना, हर आँख हो पैमाना, तू शुम मेरी सादत है, या तेरा परवाना, तू शुम मेरी सादत है, या आलम तेरा परवाना। पीते हैं तेरे दर का, खाते हैं तेरे का, पीते हैं तेरे दर का, खाते हैं तेरे दर का, पानी है तेरा पानी, दाना है तेरा दाना, तू शुम मेरी हालत है, या आलम तेरा परवाना, तू शुम मेरी हालत है, या आलम तेरा परवाना, सरशार इसे कर दे एक जाम लबान बसे, सरशार इसे कर दे एक जाम लबान बसे, ताहशीर रहे साकी आबाद ये मैं खाना, तू शुम मेरी हालत है, या आलम तेरा परवाना, तू शुम मेरी
News in Focus on Radio Al-Ansar, Durban 90.4 and Peter Marisburg 105.6 FM every Wednesday from 8 p.m. with Yunus Sacoor. That's 8 p.m. every Wednesday. Radio Al-Ansar, keeping you informed.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yes, News in Focus, 8 p.m., keeping you informed every Wednesday. Alhamdulillah, we were in Maritzburg last week, and we are actually beaming some programs live from Peter Maritzburg, and we're going to have full steam programs coming from that studio in Peter Maritzburg, medical programs and various other political programs as well. Last week, we interviewed Mr. Yunus Karim. He's been a member of parliament and also a minister for a number of decades in national legislature. So he gave us a good account of the current situation live from Peter Maritzburg. But I'm fortunate to have with me another politician, a political analyst, a party head of NICSA, BSc Social Science and Biochem and Physics graduate with an MBA, Mr. Naren Ganesh. Naren, good evening and welcome to News in Focus live on Radio Al-Ansar International.
Good evening, Yunus, and good evening to the listeners.
Now, before I interview Naren on the poor performance of municipalities and the way forward, this has been a hot subject for a considerable period of time, and some of the listeners have requested, that we give them an update on the Section 154, and the minister is calling for a Tikweni fix-up teams to integrate, but they're obviously seeing a cleanup in the beachfront, and they're seeing, refuse being picked up and some potholes being fixed up, and obviously they're concerned about the water outages. But they feel proud that for the last couple of months there's been no load shedding, so they are of the belief that the government is doing something correct. Now, if you consider the different taxes, we pay, especially those that are working, you pay basically your normal taxes, we call it PAYE, from the salary you earn, and it varies depending on your income. If you're a high earner, you can pay up to about 30 or 35% of taxes depending on where you are. Companies pay a certain percentage. I don't have the exact figure. Our economists will be coming in shortly, but a large amount of taxes are being paid, and even there's a threshold, and after the threshold, people pay taxes. But the informal taxes is what we call VAT that you pay on certain products. So that adds up. And then you pay the rates if you're a property owner. So if you add all these taxes, it probably works out to more than 50% of your income. Now, in return, for the people question, why are we paying income taxes? And then the government responds and say that is for the services that the national and provincial government provides in the form of, electricity through ESCOM, water through Amgeni Water, and these are basically national/provincial functions, and then education in the form of schools, and those that cannot pay the fees are getting free education, and university, etc. And then you talk about the road maintenance, particularly the national roads and the provincial roads that has to be reconstructed and maintained, and also various other forms of services that the national legislature provides and provincial legislature, and they talk about human settlements funding is being provided for housing opportunities. But there's a crossover on some of these functions with the rates that one pays, and the rates that one pays goes to the municipalities, and those rates are based on the valuation of one's property, and the higher the value, the higher the rates you pay. And I know there are rates exemptions up to a certain limit for those whose property values are below a certain amount. I think it's about 1.6 million. As long as you're a pensioner over 60 years old, one gets a rates exemption. But by and large, other property owners are paying a large amount of rates. And in return, they want the services that the municipality must provide in the form of, dealing with potholes, cutting the verges, sorting out the street lights, providing a refuse removal service, providing an efficient electricity supply through the bulk metering from Eskom and Amgeni Water, and various other services. But of recent months, ratepayers stroke taxpayers have been questioning that where is our money going, because over 50% of taxes are really being charged, and in return we're not getting value for money. And this is why in the last decade or so, people have become despondent. Poverty levels have increased. We know unemployment is close to 34% of people that are employable. So the government is not providing employment opportunities. Neither is the government providing services. So the question they're raising is, and we've discussed this over the last few years, is that where is the money going? And we did an analysis, and it was established through various commissions that a lot of this money is used for corruption, maladministration, fraud, and other vices that are taking place. So the amounts are quite large. Also, people are being placed into positions and they're not capable of doing the work. So on the one side, we're talking about fraud, corruption, maladministration. But on the other side, we're talking about incompetent personnel in the various government departments, starting from national, provincial, and local government. And they're one of the biggest employers of people, both professionals and non-professional. Because in refuse collection, you may have a large amount of general workers, but are they really performing? But even those that are performing clerical functions, are they really in the office? And I recall when I interviewed the mayor of eThekwini municipality a few months ago, he raised the issue that I am now beginning to find out, are people coming to work and are they there all day, or are they coming in the morning, signing the register and disappearing? So this is the culture that's taking place in a lot of government departments. So I think the minister of the Government of National Unity raised this concern, in COCTA and in the provincial legislature, that we have to fix up these municipalities, because a major portion of the municipalities are dysfunctional or are partly functional, and they're performing very poorly. And that is based on the Auditor General's report, where more than 70% of the municipalities have got qualified audit reports. The only few are the ones in Western Cape and a few other municipalities. But in KZN, the eThekwini municipality is one of the 4 metros in the country, and they were the best performing municipality back in the day. It was one of the only debt-free cities in the world. I recall when I was, an accountant in the eThekwini municipality, and then Treasurer was proud to say that because of, excellent fiscal control, and at the same time, the correct officials being appointed and excellent controls, that service delivery was at a high, and all kinds of services were being measured and monitored. But obviously, in the last decade or so, there's been a decline, and this is why now the minister is calling for eThekwini to have fix-up teams to be integrated. Now, we know recently there was an article where there was a question mark around the Section 154 intervention and the intervention from the President's Working Group, led by NC heavyweight Mike Mabuya Kulu and the eThekwini strategic support team. And there was a feeling that there may be a duplication, but there's really no duplication. I think 2 people were appointed in terms of the Section 154 intervention. And those 2, their jobs was to do a diagnostic analysis of the situation in eThekwini and report back what is required to fix up the problem. the ministerial working group was led by Mike Mabuyukulo, and he incorporated business, banking sector, and various other sectors, civic society, etc., and to establish what are the problems and how they're going to deal with the problems. So ultimately, the concern of the ratepayer, as I discuss, is the functions that are required from the ratepayer. The question is, when the ratepayers could expect meaningful changes in terms of the stabilization of water, electricity, and refuse collection services, the minister said that he wanted noticeable change in less than a year. So the turnaround strategy is around 1 year. So basically, he says, we agree that we cannot get here overnight. It will take time to get out of the situation, but should not take a year, he said. But I think very important, he said, is that we must deal with things like potholes and water supply, because if people believe they are getting these services, they will pay for them. So ultimately, people are paying, and there is concern, how do we fix it up? So when I recently spoke to Dr. Mike Sutcliffe, and he basically was a former city manager, and he was appointed in terms of the Section 154 intervention, he indicated to me that they're doing a diagnosis of the problems, whether it's water, whether it's electricity, whether it's road maintenance, whether it's refuse removal maintenance, whether it is sustainability of treasury. And also, a serious part of his investigation is around maladministration, fraud and corruption. And the public is of the view that there is no tangent evidence that the culprits have been taken to task. So obviously, there's going to be consultation with the CIR unit of eThekwini municipality. This is the forensic unit, to establish how many cases of fraud and alleged irregularities, corruption have taken place, and what has been done to the culprits. That is the first part of it. The second part is those departments that are underperforming, what has happened to the money, and must establish where it's gone. And number three, those personnel that are employed, are they qualified to do the job, and are they really delivering, and how do you measure performance of these employees? Because the feeling out there is that with cadre deployment and jobs for PALs, people have been put into senior management positions from the city manager downwards, and maybe they don't know how to manage, or they're not managing effectively. So the big problem arises around exactly what is the cause of the problem, and how are we going to sort this problem out. Now, the good news is that the Minister of Water Affairs has established a task team to look at the water infrastructure, the piping, etc., to establish how they're going to repair it and at what cost, because you need funds to do upgrades and repairs. So those that have been appointed in the government of national unity are quite enthusiastic, because they were not in control in the past, and they're saying now that we are in control, we want to start establishing facts and figures. And it is abundantly clear that the different political parties that are forming part of GNU have got the mandate not to protect each other, because they're saying that if a particular section of the organization is linked to a particular political party, the problem should be established and dealt with, and not the party. You can't protect the party. For example, if there's maladministration in a particular municipality led by, say, the IFP, that should be kept aside, but the problem needs to be identified and dealt with, and the culprits need to be, disciplined and charged, etc., criminally and otherwise. So we will start off with that background, Naren. And being a political analyst, I would like to know from you, having read about the various interventions, not only in eThekwini, Msunduzi is equally bad, still under administration. Kwadugoza, I'm talking about around KZN, and we know in other municipalities there's a similar problem. Being, an MBA graduate, knowing how management works, what is your analysis? Do you agree with what I've summarized now, or you want to add, or you want to reaffirm that these are the problems? Can I have your comments?
Yeah, no, I totally agree quite a bit with what you have said, because that's the reality that's facing us. And, I think it's important to go back to 1996 when these local councils were formed. Obviously, it was the honeymoon phase as well. Everyone was excited about it. And then as time went on, the rot began to set, because a lot of people saw what is in the fiscus, what's in the public purse, And as they continued to put their hands in, the hands got longer, the pockets got deeper, and corruption became manifest in virtually every echelon of the bureaucracy, both national, provincial, and local. But let's get to the problem that faces eThekwini municipality. Like you well said, there was a period when eThekwini was one of the model metros, amongst the 6 big metros in the country. And there were competent people, there were capable people, and there were people who were concerned about the welfare and the well-being of the province or the municipality itself. Mike Sutcliffe was involved in that as well. And you were a part of that period when municipalities, my dad was a councillor during that period as well. But what has happened is politics has taken over. Local government is the actual real coalface between the ratepayer and the service deliverer. That means the municipality. And it is at that level where intervention has to happen with those who are elected, because it is at local government election previously that it was the only election where people were elected. Although it was a mixed representation, with a proportional representation and a fixed representation in terms of elected officials. But what had happened is people began electing political parties instead of persons. And it was about power, because if you look at the initial period where the IFP controlled the municipality, it was very well run, and then the ANC took over, and then there was a progressive decline and degeneration. I mean, we've got urban decay like we've never known. But manifesting that urban decay and why it has happened is because there are personnel in the EXCO, the highest level decision-making body of the municipality, who are corrupt. And we need to call a spade a spade. It is not about black, white, blue, and green. It is about the person who is there, who is manifestly corrupt in trying to steal and get as much for himself while he can. When the pot's open, the hands have become quite long. Now, some of the things that you've mentioned, let me just take the one aspect. The real thing is about productivity. Productivity is sadly lacking in our province. If you go to any government offices, you will find that there's a mixture of competent and highly incompetent personnel. Some of them do not even understand what they are trying to communicate to the ratepayer. And I can understand the angst and the anger and the frustration of ratepayers who stand in queues only to be redirected to another queue after about 30 minutes of wait, because everyone's got something to do. And they take time off work to go to, like, the billing, the water and sanitation and electricity department. They've got massive problems. I cannot for the life of me fathom how over these many years that we've got a billing system that is prejudicing the ratepayer. And I've been inundated with requests from various people to address this matter. Look, if we had competent mayors who really believed in making this municipality, we are supposed to be the most livable city by 2030. That is a pipe dream that's never going to happen. If we get people...
And you haven't even touched on the costs of that billing system.
Not yet.
It went close to $1 billion.
Not yet, yes. The problem is we do not have people with the political will or the patriotic will to let other people live. If we take our roads, for example, anywhere in the municipality, people have to drive like as if they're driving on a racetrack, because to avoid those potholes. And even when those potholes are fixed, they are piecemeal work, because after a few days, it degenerates, degrades, and back to square one. But what that does, the cadres and the comrades are getting jobs again. Now, the municipality will swear till they're blue in the face that, no, everything is done above board. It's not. There's a rogue element in our politics. And they've been given carte blanche to perpetuate this roguery to such an extent that it prejudices the ratepayer and the taxpayer. And as you mentioned, at least 50 cents in the rand is paid in tax by people, whether it's by VAT, road levies, etc. And I see Hassan has come in. He'll tell you more about the 50 cents in the rand that we paid to the government. But government needs revenue to function. No government in the world can function without revenue, and that's how they derive the income. But we don't have proper checks and balances on the quality of work that is being done. That manifests itself in bigger expense to the ratepayer and the taxpayer. And just to get back on that billing system, I believe...
What I want to do, Naren, is we highlighted the poor performance of municipalities, and we just use the Tech20 as a guideline. I want to go for the news break.
Okay.
And after the news break, we'll try to look at the way forward.
Okay.
Because when I summarize the problem and the reason for the problem, we need to work out the solution. Now, 154 and this presidential intervention is two areas. They say it's going to take a year. Will a year be too long? So we'll have the news break and we'll continue with the discussion.
No.
An informative Islamic global perspective. This is Al Ansar News.
Making news this hour, the 21st of August, the news from Durban, 90.4 FM, Peter Maritzburg, 105.6 FM. Local media says an alert has been issued for KwaZulu-Natal following high fire. American Morina, an alert was issued earlier today for extremely high fire danger conditions in northern KwaZulu-Natal. The South African Weather Service forecaster, Specifically Dlamini, says the areas that could be affected are Ladysmith, Msinga, and Kandla, Ulundi, Nongoma, and a host of others. Makosi Dladla, who works with the Working on Fire, says 41 response teams have been deployed in the province to deal with any potential danger. She says they have battled 169 fires in July alone. More news, the corruption case against former Sports, Arts and Culture Minister Zizi Kodwa has been postponed to next month, September. Kodwa and his co-accused former Enterprise Outsourcing Holdings senior executive Ian McKay briefly appeared at the Palm Ridge Magistrate or Specialized Commercial Crimes Court today. McKay is alleged to have paid Kodwa 1.7 million rands in kickbacks in exchange for government tenders. The case now has been postponed several times. Zola Majavu is Zizi Kodwa's lawyer. He has this to say.
We are ready. We were hoping that today would set a trial date. We were ready on the last occasion, regardless of the answers given. And that is what I said on record in open court. But we must also appreciate that we are colleagues. Accused number one also has a right to follow the processes that he is following. Yes, it is unfortunate because those processes and the outcomes thereof have a knock-on effect on my client, which is a bit disappointing because he's a public figure. Every single day that goes by, people still look at him as a corrupt person. It's cost him his cabinet position. It's cost him his MP status. It's cost him his membership of the ANC and any other official position. So the prejudice is huge. The reputational damage continues on a daily basis. But look, he does not locate himself above the law. He's not the only one who's subjected to these processes. However slow the wheels of justice might be turning, but they are turning.
More news now. Foreign nationals queuing outside the Home Affairs offices in Marabastad, Pretoria, say they are devastated by an incident yesterday during which one person died in a stampede. The incident left more than 20 people injured. The Marabastad Home Affairs office is one of 5 offices in the country that deals with refugees and asylum seekers. Police are investigating the incident. William Smith, known as South Africa's favorite maths and science teacher, passed away following a battle with cancer. Smith died at his home in Perth, Australia, surrounded by family. He was 85 years of age. In 2019, Smith was awarded the National Order Award for his excellent contribution to teaching and demystifying maths and science. Smith made the maths and science accessible to all pupils for free through television in the 1990s, which was known as Learning Channel on national TV. In other news now, judicial bodies and organizations paid tribute to outgoing Chief Justice Raymond Zondo. Zondo delivered his last judgment earlier today in a special ceremonial sitting at the Constitutional Court. He leaves the bench at the end of this month after 27 years of service. He had this to say.
I know that some sectors in society or sections in society make all kinds of allegations against the judiciary, one of which is that the judiciary is captured, or some judges are captured. It's only a few believe that the majority know that and accept that this judiciary works very hard and performs its functions the way it should. Society must reject those people who keep on making all kinds of accusations against the judiciary when they have no evidence, when they have been called upon to produce evidence and they don't have evidence, but they keep on making allegations.
Your international story, Iranian Vice President Mohammad Reza Arif has extended his sincere condolences over the death of at least 28 Pakistani pilgrims heading to the Iraqi holy city of Karbala when their bus overturned in Iran's central province of Yazd. In a telephone conversation with the Yazd provincial governor, Mehran Fatima, Arif followed up on the medical treatment of those injured and inquired about the causes of the deadly accident. He also offered his condolences to the families of the victims and prayed for quick recovery for those injured in the crash. Your weather, 31 degrees. A quick reminder of our top story. An alert has been issued for extremely high fire danger conditions in northern KwaZulu-Natal. The areas could be affected at Ladysmith, Nkandla, Msinga, Ulundi, Nongoma. That's the news.
Audio stream across the world on radioalansar.co.za.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness. And every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and freezer card calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
This August, Phenomenal Women and Al-Ansar Outreach invites you to our annual Women's Day event.
Join Bibi Aisha Laher, Abba Aisha Fakhruddin, Zora Suleiman, and others for a day of inspiration and entertainment. It has to be you.
Saturday, the 24th of August, 2024, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at 189 West Road. Lunch and treats provided.
Tickets 250 Rand available at the Al-Ansar shop or call outreach on 031 208 1601.
People of Palestine need your support now. Africa Muslims Agency is on the ground, already providing food, medication, and emergency supplies in Gaza. Donate any amount to Heal Palestine at africamuslimsagency.co.za. Africa Muslims Agency, empowering, educating, inspiring.
It's Ria Muhammad here, hosting the Next Gen show on Radio Al-Ansar. It's not just a radio show, it stands as a powerful movement in its own right. It embodies the essence of individuality, creativity, and positivity, where we explore the latest trends and engage in lively discussions. Expect a mix of insight, humor, and mental health, social justice, and relevance that promises an enlightening and enjoyable listening experience, ensuring you don't miss out on this captivating adventure on Next Gen.
This segment is brought to you by Kenfield Auto, your RMI approved service and repair specialist. 236 Brickfield Road, Overport. Kenfield Auto.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا.
Car won't start?
Kenfield Auto.
Noisy brakes?
Kenfield Auto.
Due for a service?
Kenfield Auto. Kenfield Auto, the answer to all your car problems. Your service and repair specialist for your VW, Audi, Suzuki, Toyota, or just about any vehicle. Kenfield Auto, your RMI and insurance approved workshop to handle them all. 236 Brickfield Road, Overport. Call us on 031 207 2399. Kenfield Auto.
Radio Al-Ansar, 24/7, 365.
Listen to News in Focus on Radio Al-Ansar, Durban 90.4 and Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM every Wednesday from 8 p.m. with Yunus Sacoor. That's 8 p.m. every Wednesday. Radio Al-Ansar, keeping you informed.
नाम मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु आँखों की ठंडक के जिला नाम मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु आँखों की ठंडक के जिला
ये ना कोई काम बिगड़ने नहीं देता बिगड़े भी बना देता है बस नाम मुहम्मद नाते सरकार की पढ़ता हूँ मैं हाँ नाते सरकार की पढ़ता हूँ मैं बस इसी बात से घर में मेरे रौनक होगी हाँ तेरा नाम वसीला है मेरा मेरे सोने आका तेरा नाम वसीला है मेरा रंजो में बस इसी नाम से राहत होगी उनको मुख्तार बना मेरे मौला ने उनको मुख्तार बना है मेरे मौला खुल्द में बस वो ही जा सकता है बस वो ही जा सकता है जिसको हसनैन के बाबा की इजाजत होगी पढ़ता हूँ मैं बस इसी नाम से घर मेरे पढ़ता हूँ मैं बस इसी नाम से घर मेरे या मुहम्मद मुहम्मद मैं कहता रहा नूर के मोतियों की लड़ी बन गई आयतों से मिला आयतों से मिला जो देखा तो नाते नबी बन गई या मुहम्मद मुहम्मद मैं कहता के मोतियों की लड़ी बन गई या मुहम्मद मुहम्मद
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to News in Focus live on Radio Al-Ansar International, broadcasting on the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM, and streaming on www.alansar.org.za. Before I continue with my discussion with Mr. Naren Ganesh, just want to go through some WhatsApp messages that have come through from Brother Frank Hay from Piemberg. Brother Yunus, we have a situation where there ought to be adherence to minimum accounting standards as per regulatory bodies like SECA, IRBA, and other regulatory bodies. That's in terms of the financial, and Hassan, who's live in the studio, will chat about that. But this is sadly lacking, and it's nothing new countrywide. But we as ordinary citizens are powerless. I see the new KZN Kokta is starting to show some teeth, and obviously he's referring to the intervention from the national and provincial minister in terms of Section 154 and other interventions. Frank mentioned it's going to take time, and then he mentioned further, under regulations made under South African law promulgated in 2011, entities in South Africa are permitted to use either International Financial Reporting Standards, IFRS, the IFRS for SMEs, or South African Statements of Generally Accepted Accounting Practice, GAP, depending on an entity's public interest score. Now, this obviously makes reference to the poor performance of municipalities, because the Auditor General has, indicated or had qualified reports on many municipalities in South Africa, and is cause for concern. Now, Narayan, before the break, we were chatting about some of the poor performance, and we know we can go on for hours chatting about it and highlighting. And the good news is that load shedding, for the last couple of months, there's been no load shedding, and the Minister of Electricity has indicated that they sorted out some of the problems there. But a lot of these kind of problems have been linked, even the water outages, to this mafia type, damages that are taking place. And indications where on the water side is that infrastructure is being damaged, so that those contractors who are providing water through the tankers can get more work. And same with, other service providers. So, in brief, maybe for 5 minutes, I just want you to indicate, based on the 154 intervention and the ministerial task team intervention, particularly in KZN, and that applies to other municipalities, what are the key issues that government and local government needs to look at to have a turnaround strategy that we will yield results?
Look, the Section 154 intervention, ministerial tasking is important, but we don't want it to become another bureaucratic process that falls flat eventually. The bull has to be taken by its horns. There's no doubt. If you want a revitalization of service delivery to the ratepayer, where what he pays for, he gets, then you need people who are not afraid, because you are right about one thing. There's a mafia that operates on the ground level, where contractors are solicited in ways of by corrupt means. And like the tanker example that you gave, I've had reports of one contractor taking a tanker to a stream and offloading half of the water, supplying half of the water to the residents so he can go and refill, because they are paid per trip. So you need people to remove that corruption. You need a revamping of personnel. And this employment equity plan of the eThekwini municipality actually is a failing plan. Not because it's giving previously disadvantaged citizens an opportunity for equal work, but it is bringing in incompetence. It's bringing in people who are incapable just because you got to meet the equity plan, and it's failing.
Well, the president has made a clear announcement in his last speech that he won municipalities, and he gave that advice to his ministerial task team. No matter what your color is, he wants the best person for the job.
Absolutely. I've been an advocate of meritocracy from the very beginning, and it's high time. 30 years into democracy, everyone should be given a fair chance. And if you're a fit for purpose candidate, please employ you. Whether you're black, white, or brown, it does not matter. It's high time we remove the chaff from the grain, and the moment we do that, we will get service delivery that's equitable to what the ratepayer pays. More importantly, processes have to be re-engineered. There's got to be a baseline re-engineering of how service delivery happens. There are a lot of people who are competent to revamp the system, but there must be both political will and the will to ensure that the constitutional premise of we the people are kept in place. And, we can go on with a lot of possible solutions, but if we don't change the baseline, the fundamental aspect of competency against incompetency, capability against incapability, you'll get people promoting the corruption, festering their corruption, and then destroying the municipality to a point where we will get qualified audits all the bloody time.
Now, obviously it starts with the politicians, and the executive committee is where the monitoring process starts, because they are the leadership of the municipalities, and particularly at eThekwini. And now that the national, legislature is looking carefully at eThekwini with timelines. They obviously ensuring that this performance being monitored on a regular basis. So you need performance monitoring mechanisms on a monthly basis.
Yeah, I'm happy that COCTA is getting involved, the MEC is getting involved, but I want to give a piece of advice to residents. Put as much pressure on those councillors. We have a bunch of councillors, not all, let me not paint everybody with the same brush, but councillors who are disrespectful, who don't give a damn when complaints are laid, they don't follow up complaints. I want the people to put pressure. If they are not meeting the standards of service delivery or a response to the ratepayer, report them to the mayor, the city manager. If that failing, report them to the MEC, because at this point in time, it's only the MEC who, besides the city manager, is the MEC who can literally remove an elected ward councillor. You know, a PR councillor, the party can. But I'm urging the people, if we want to start change in the service delivery, let's get rid of councillors already elected. They were elected on a party ticket. Many of them were not elected because they had a sense of competency. They were just lucky. They were on the list, party list, proportional representation list, and they're there. So that is the starting point. Get rid of the chef from that base level. Then once people are appointed to various portfolio committees, they can become the watchdog to promote budgets, equitable budgets for various aspects, roads, water, electricity, refuse, etc., etc. And if we don't start there, then, as they say, the rot starts from the top. And once it's rotting at the top, what can you do at the bottom?
Correct. Hassan, I want to bring you in. Hassan, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to News in Focus Live tonight.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Hassan, we we went through the comment by Frank Hay on fiscal discipline. Perhaps if you just want to give us an indication, in which way you are aware that a lot of municipalities has qualified audit opinions from the Auditor General, and they haven't done much to really improve the setup. So what's your response to these violations of fiscal discipline?
Sure. I mean, the biggest issue we have with regard to municipalities is firstly the there's two key areas. Firstly, in terms of the expenditure budget, you've got no control in terms of firstly the wage aspects, and then secondly the procurement aspect. On the wage side, I mean, we saw this, I think, was it last week or the week before? Salga came out and talked about municipalities cannot afford their staff. The big issue is close to 40% of the budget is going just towards wages and salaries. And you're getting a person who is not being demeaning or anything in any way, but the cost of it, the fact that somebody that's taking the spade and digging is being paid close to 250,000 rand a year within the municipality. That's a massive amount relative to what's that similar type of work is paid for in the private sector. And we can go through the different levels of sort of office managers and the like, and their remuneration levels are just way above what's in the private sector. So that's the biggest issue. The second issue is procurement. Nana just talked about earlier in talking about whether it's corruption or whether the mafia or somebody along the line is benefiting or has to benefit. So whether it's the clerk and then after that the politician and then the different companies they're dealing with along the line, everybody is feeding in the trough. That's the issue. So the problem is, instead of paying 100 rand for a particular item or a particular service, you end up paying 500 rand. That's a massive, massive, massive overinflation and overpayment for a particular service. This has led to a huge amount. 86% of all municipalities in this country are deemed to be financially distressed or very financially distressed. 86%. That's a ridiculous number. Now, you cannot be sustainable like this long term. And that's why this needs to change. The other issue, consumers are feeling the pressure of this. NERSA is talking about or wants to implement close to a 40% increase in electricity prices 2025, 2026. They're talking about those increases. Consumers are struggling. How can a consumer who's been under massive pressure over the particularly last 2 years, where food inflation has gone up, rates and taxes has gone up, electricity, water, everything has gone up. Now you want to put on another 40% increase on the electricity. It's ludicrous to put it mildly. It is madness. And what's the cause of that? Eskom is owed close to 80 billion by municipalities. Now, the culture of non-payment also needs to be eradicated. You cannot have a culture of entitlement where everything I must get must be free. Or, firstly, there must be a culture of paying. culture of paying firstly for services that you are provided. Yes, there's a certain level where you can say a certain amount, especially for people that are earning below a certain level, maybe granted a level of free electricity units or free amount of usage of liters of water, kiloliters or whatever it may be, you can allow that. But we have a culture where townships and towns and the like are just not paying. That's not sustainable. Now, where we talked about previously how only 15% of the tax base is paying close to 80% of the revenues in terms of personal taxable income, how can you have this sustainable for majority of the population long term? Cannot happen. Now, there's a couple of key. Firstly, the culture and the mindset around paying for service needs to change. This entitlement thing needs to change, and it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a long term, but we have to address it and we have to make strides and progress towards it. Secondly, unemployment. Now, when you have strong, I think there's an opportunity to create jobs. I think we're going into, yes, the global economy is still tough. China is slowing down, and China is a big trading partner of ours, and we do export a lot to China. And you're looking at other regions such as the US and the like. However, there is an opportunity for us to improve and to create jobs, whether it's in the public sector through infrastructure spending, and that is picking up, but also in the private sector, there is some confidence now in the country and the economy, which will result in more investment and creation of jobs. What we do need, though, is less bureaucracy. The bureaucratic and the red tape needs to be reduced and eradicated. And that also means the impact and the influence of some of the strong unions and the strong labor unions, we need to have some flexibility. Yes, we want to create jobs that will improve the lives of all of our people. But do we want to rather only give handouts, or at least somebody's working, has some dignity, has some honor, they're working, earning something towards their family, or rather going and standing in a line or waiting for their monthly social grant of 1,000 Rand or 1,200 Rand when they could be earning 3,000 to 4,000. Yes, the minimum wage is 4,500 Rand a month. If there's some flexibility, you could say, well, say 4,000 Rand a month if somebody's earning slightly below. Rather, will somebody earn that for working, a period of time in the month, or rather waiting for a social grant, which is a burden on the government and on the taxpayers. Now, if more people are working, more contribution to tax and less reliance on the state for grants and those type of issues. In Islam, what are the sayings we learned from the, I think it's one of the hadiths or one of the sayings we learned is that, you talk about, rather you give a rod to fish rather than giving, fish to eat. So there's a lot of opportunities for us to empower people. And you know what? A lot of our NGOs can play they're already playing a fantastic part in this in South Africa. Lots of our, whether it's Al Ansar Foundation or whether it's Sons of Darul Ihsan, Al Imdad, there's many of them that are doing fantastic work out there. There's also more opportunities, I think, to empower and use the funds towards a lot more empowerment rather than just relief. We can empower and can create sustainable ventures and activities through the use of this as well.
Hassan, maybe you can just sum up, Hassan. I noticed that some of the politicians are commenting that since the GNU in the last few months, the markets have been very positive, and we know the Rand is sitting around 70, and it's never been so good in many a year. And there's reports coming through that, the price of petrol is expected to drop by another 73 cents. So in the last couple of months, there's been a decline. So the markets are responding positively. So obviously, we can see clearly that, corruption, maladministration, etc., if that's being addressed, the country will benefit. Perhaps you just quickly want to comment on the current numbers and the inflation rates, etc., Hassan?
Yes, there is a lot more, there is a bit more confidence and a bit more optimism around the current political environment and the sort of the direction that hopefully we're going, and we're going hopefully in the right directions. I think, but we got to take into account markets are not necessarily just a reflection of what's happening politically. It's a reflection of a combination of factors. So yes, one of the contributing factors is that there's at least some confidence and in the stability being shown by the new government of national unity, and also the direction being taken across some of the major industry, major sectors and major industries. However, secondly, a couple of key inflation and economic numbers have come out. Inflation is this month, just released yesterday, the lowest we've seen since 2021, came in at 4.6%. So a positive number highlighting that, at least inflation is slowing, which gives the Reserve Bank the ability to cut rates. When Reserve Bank cut rates means there's an ability then for people to either increase spending, increase in terms of infrastructure spend and the like, because they can borrow cheaply and spend on infrastructure, consumer spending and the like. So I think that's a positive news and potentially could lead to positive momentum over the next couple of months. Thirdly, though, markets, not in globally, the S&P 500, which is the US markets, are now close to record highs. So in the last month, they have moved up very strongly. We've also moved up strongly on the back of, yes, global markets, and also the benefit of the what we've seen in the politics and the inflation. Lastly, though, the rand, and I know wherever you go, people are talking about the rand, and you hear it in the radio, and the rand against the dollar has strengthened quite nicely over the last 2 to 3 months. Not too long ago, around the election time, it was at about 19 rand to the dollar. Today, it's sitting at 17 rand 90 or 17 rand 85 early on today. So you've had a nice rand and about 10 or 15 cents against the dollar during this period. However, against the pound, it's gone from 24 rand in about around the election time to 23 rand 30. So you've had a combination, firstly, of dollar weakness that has contributed to the rand strengthening against the dollar, and also the fact that the positive confidence around South Africa and the momentum that we're taking, that's also contributing. So it's not only because the GNU, and the DA loves to punt it. You'll see it they're pushing it out in their media, and they're contributing to all of this here, the markets, because they're the golden angel and the golden child that's come in and done this. It's not that. Yes, there's more confidence in the GNU and the fact that there's potential more stability and the like, and you're getting that momentum. But it's also the fact that the US dollar has weakened during this period, so it has contributed to the currency. But also global markets, particularly the US markets, has moved up strongly, which has also seen the South African markets move up on the back of that as well.
Thanks, Hassan. Very important information you've given us. There is confidence in it as long as the public is benefiting for a decrease in petrol prices, because this ricochets into all other costs. This listener that sent a message, Salams, do you have any insight as to why Msunduzi municipality charges an additional AM charge, which is as high as 652 on 30 amps? This is an additional charge on top of the normal electricity we pay. I find it totally unreasonable. It feels as if we are paying a double electricity bill. I'm not aware of any other municipality paying these charges. Paying a bill of 3.5 for a single unemployed person is truly ridiculous, and way up to 800 rand is a fixed amount of rates and charges. I agree with the listener sending this comment. What we're going to do is, because our Maritzburg radio station is now fully effective, and we're going to invite the mayor and other senior officials from the municipality to chat on my Wednesday show. Inshallah, next week we will have somebody from that municipality. We'll invite them to our studios and chat on the situation in Msunduzi, and we'll cover this particular charge. But I do agree, if it's not applicable, in terms of the NERSA regulations, then why is the municipality imposing this when people are already struggling to pay? I know Mr. Naren needs to leave. You got a few minutes for your closing comments, Naren. I know we'll get you back in future interviews. I know you kindly came in, at short notice, but your closing comments, Naren.
Yeah, look, it was a good subject matter you addressed today. And I'd like to advise the listeners to get more involved in the civics, in the Ratepayer Association, because from there, impetus is lent to for mobility in getting service delivery happening, because the more we sit and complain in our lounges and kitchens, it remains there. Engage your counselors. Please engage your counselors, and if they are not responding, report them. It's not about a war with the counselors, but that is the reason why they've been elected. And if you don't have competent personnel, which starts at that level, then how do you expect service delivery to happen? So my advice is that obviously with the Section 154 intervention and stuff, ministerial intervention, there might be light at the end of the tunnel, but that light comes from a bureaucratic process. The real process comes from the people and those serving them. And with that, I hope the listeners take a heed with regards to that.
Thank you for joining us and sharing some very important information with us, interesting comments. We wish you all the best, and definitely we will invite you in some of our future interviews, Naren, and we wish you everything of the best.
Thank you, and good evening to the listeners.
Good evening. That is Brother Naren Ganesh. He's one of the political analysts, party head of NICSA, political commentator, also a graduate, an MBA graduate as well, and quite an astute political analyst. We're now going to interview Sheikh Imran Subrati, who is the newly elected MP from the African National Congress in the national legislature. And when he joined, the national legislature, he obviously, it's an experience for him because he was a consultant in Durban and also involved in various civic associations and other activities, the Secretary General of Amal and various other civic organizations. But as we speak, Imran Subrati is in Cape Town and in parliamentary duties. Imran, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to News in Focus Live on Radio Al Ansar International.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah, Yunus, for having me on your show.
I can see you snugged under the blankets because Mufti Ibrahim Sundu was telling us it's pouring rain from this morning in the Western Cape.
Yeah, I was in Parliament for most of the day. I did hear the rain, but alhamdulillah, where I am right now, it's extremely cold, but there's no rain. And you're quite right. I am stuck in bed whilst I'm in the city.
Yeah, I know in the Western Cape, unlike Durban, our guest was saying, we hardly had a winter. And, you're from Durban, you come here in the weekend, so it's pretty warm here. And Brother Abdul is sitting with me here with a T-shirt on, so he knows it's quite warm. Now, Imran, a lot of our listeners congratulate you for being appointed as a member of Parliament on behalf of the African National Congress. Now, they want to know, how have you adjusted to the new life as an MP? Because, you're going to leave on a Friday, on a Sunday or Monday, come back on a weekend again, go back. And I believe it's quite hectic in Parliament, unlike the past where people, will just laze around and a lot of the guys would just sort of duck and dive. But, because you are now a new MP and you want to really get involved with the portfolios you involved with, your, chief whip of a whole lot of different portfolios, maybe you can just advise our listeners, how have you adjusted to the new life as an MP?
Well, I think firstly, the physical adjustment has been a huge adjustment. Coming from Durban to Cape Town, obviously the weather is extremely cold, yeah? Something that we have never been adjusted to. And then the second thing is the family adjustment. Being here alone is a big adjustment, but it's something that we've made a deliberate decision about it because this allows me to focus better. In terms of the actual parliament itself, as you mentioned, I don't have a pure political background. I've been an activist. So for me, it's been a phenomenal learning curve. And alhamdulillah, it speaks well to my work ethic. And I think this current seventh parliament will require people with high work ethics, people who will have this aptitude to learn, to excel professionally and to meaningfully contribute. So all those values are within myself. So I've spent a lot of my time upskilling myself, understanding systems, and alhamdulillah, I've been quite involved, and my party has given me a huge amount of responsibility. So it's been a phenomenal. I've mentioned that it's been a 90 degrees learning curve for me. It's been challenging, but extremely and thoroughly rewarding.
Just briefly, your duties that you are asked to perform there. Perhaps you just can apprise our listeners that it's not just like a holiday there. you're quite busy, and you're involved in a whole lot of responsibilities. And how have you managed thus far?
I mean, absolutely. For example, the sun rises here at about 7:20, and I'm up at 5:30. I have catch a Parliament bus this morning at 7 o'clock. I was in the bus to Parliament, and I was in Parliament at 8. And, often Abdul Valodia will try phoning, my family will try phoning me at 9 and 10. I'm still in Parliament. So, Alhamdulillah, I've been deployed in the Portfolio Committee of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, in which we have oversight into two ministers into the presidency. And it's a huge responsibility in that the planning, monitoring and evaluation oversees the performance over all departments. And that's where I've been deployed as a work. I'm involved in the Transport Portfolio Committee, which is phenomenal. And transport is such a crucial department in the economy, in that if we don't move, the economy does not move. When people don't move, goods don't move, services don't move. If everything comes to a standstill, the economy comes to a standstill. So I'm involved in economy, in the transport. And after the brief constitutive recess, when we came back, on Tuesday, we had a WHIPS meeting, and I've been redeployed now to 2 additional committees where I'm whipping. And one is the Standing Committee on Auditor General. And the second one is the Joint Standing Committee on the Financial Management of Parliament. So I think that these talk a lot to my professional expertise and my skills as an accountant. And I've been deployed in that as well. So it's a huge amount of responsibility. Like, for example, today, I mentioned it requires people with high work ethics. I spent an entire day today in the SCOPA Portfolio Committee, which is the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, a very, very crucial committee and portfolio committee. It's part of adding value. And I must comment that, alhamdulillah, we are seeing a resurgence of positivity. And I spoke to some of the support staff in the committee, and I said, what do you feel of the energy that's coming through now? They said, we are so excited about the energy in this portfolio committee. We can see things moving in the right direction. So there's a lot of work, and alhamdulillah, we're in the middle of everything.
Your SCOPA chair, Sugiso Zibi, he mentioned GNU offers new opportunities for accountability, and he mentioned the Standing Committee on Public Accounts is arguably the most important committee in Parliament. It will be chaired in the 7th Parliament by, MP from Rais Msanzi, Sungiso Zibi. And basically, he indicated, they're quite enthusiastic together with the team to really make it happen and ensure that there's accountability, transparency, etc. So what you're mentioning is what's coming through, and also the markets are responding. But Imran, I know we can chat with you on another occasion. We'll keep in touch with you regularly, but we're going to chat shortly to the Honorable Deputy Minister of International Relations, and and he was going to briefly touch on the Gaza issue. But I just want you to introduce him before we get hold of the Honorable Minister, because a lot of people have been raising questions that now that there's a GNU, what is South Africa's position in terms of Palestine and all the atrocities that are still taking place? How do we respond? So perhaps Imran, you just want to give some background on the Honorable Minister, Alvin Botus, and we can interview him shortly.
Yes, well, firstly, we must be grateful. I did try to get hold of the Minister, Ronald Lamola, when Abdul Valodia reached out to me to try and see who we can facilitate. And the Honorable Minister of International Affairs and Cooperation, Ronald Lamola, who our listeners might know was the previous Minister of Justice, he mentioned that he tendered his apologies and he is busy traveling. And obviously, then this morning, I reached out to the Honorable Deputy Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, the very passionate Minister Alvin Botus, who was also the Deputy Minister in the 6th Parliament. And he is very graciously accepted to be with us this evening. And I hope we got the minister online. In fact, when I spoke to him today, he mentioned to me that, Imran, I'm in a Palestine meeting between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. And he said, can we not defer it to another day? I said, no. I said, Honorable Minister, we need to engage with our people. There has been, and I've mentioned to the stream before, that our people, Palestinian, supporters need to be given calm and ease that the government has not forsaken the cause of Palestine. And he has assured me previously, has Minister Ronald Lamola, so has the Secretary General of the African National Congress, and so has the President in his State of the Nation's address, given a comfort. But I said really to the Deputy Minister, we need to engage with the Palestinian supporters and give them. So we are delighted that he's given us this time. As I mentioned, 7 to 9, he was in a meeting with Palestine. He was receiving some guests, and he said it will take him about 30 minutes to get to his place, and then he'll be able to take the interview at about 9:30. So we are really very grateful, Yunus, for the Honorable Minister for accepting our invitation at short notice.
No, thank you for facilitating this interview. And I believe Honorable Minister Alvin Botas is online. I'm going to welcome him now. Honorable Minister, Mr. Alvin Botas, Deputy Minister of International Relations and Cooperation. Good evening and welcome to News in Focus live on Radio Al Ansar International from Durban.
Yes. Thank you very much for welcoming me, and let me express gratitude for keeping the plight of the ordinary Palestine people alive.
Honorable Deputy Minister, we're really proud of the ruling party. They've been in government for 3 decades, and with all the challenges, they've supported the plight of the Palestinian brothers and sisters more so now than ever before. And, South Africa stood and took the Zionists to the ICJ and sort of got a ruling. But, the devastation, the atrocities are continuing as we speak. I was just mentioning earlier to one of our muftis from Cape Town that in the last 24 hours, 50 Palestinian, people have been martyred. And over 1,600 children have been martyred out of the 40,000 people. So it's atrocities at its higher level. Honorable Minister, South Africa has historically been a strong supporter of Palestine. We know from President Mandela, former President Mandela, his decease, mentioned that South Africa will not be free until Palestine is free, because he recognized the importance Palestine, served in our democracy. Now, how does the current government plan to continue advocating for Palestinian statehood and self-determination, particularly in the light of recent developments in the Middle East peace process?
Yes, no, thanks very much, Yunus. Look, I think our inception point, obviously, is the ANC-led government of national unity. There's a statement of intent that defines our foreign policy perspectives and outlook, which, amongst others, state that it will strive to uphold international human rights in accordance to international law. And the plight, and the struggle for self-determination of the Palestinian people is in accordance to our constitutional values and our proposition, as the ANC-led GNU. What we need to affirm is obviously the centrality of the United Nations, in particular, through Resolution 194, which, amongst others, calls for the return of all the Palestinian refugees who are being displaced, or who has been displaced during the 1948 Nakba catastrophe and the Israel-Arab War. And that goes further to, our view that in terms of the recent International Court of Justice, your ICJ decision, that the conduct of, the Zionist state as it relates to their continued annexation and occupation of Palestine land is obviously in conflict with international law. And once again, as the ANC-led GNU, we are calling obviously for the state of Israel and, encourage the state of Israel's allies, in particular the United States of America, to bear the necessary responsibility on, or impose the necessary responsibility on the state of Israel to subordinate, itself to the multilateral system and to the decisions made by the United Nations Security Council and the United Nations General Assembly.
Now, South Africa has got a relationship with Israel and Palestine, particularly in the light of growing economic ties with Israel and historically solidarity with the Palestinian people. How does South Africa balance the situation? Because the reality is that part of the GNU, you do have some of the parties that are supporting the Israeli cause, whatever way and form. But the ANC is quite clear that the issue of the support of Palestine has been redlined, and the GNU cannot change the stance of the government or the GNU led by the ANC. So it's a difficult task that you as the deputy minister and the minister have to really balance this whole setup. And I'm glad that South Africa is handling it quite well. But unfortunately, the continuous atrocities and the bombardment that's taking place in Gaza, and particularly infant children are being targeted by these snipers. Last week, a building was attacked, and a lot of children were killed. And then last week sometime, while the people were in the early morning prayer, there was a bombardment and hundreds of people were killed. Now, I know South Africa, we were part of the struggle for democracy, and, you and I, we were part of the struggle back in the days, and many of us, we know the kind of, problems we face with the South African police force and the detainment and imprisonment, etc. So we quite, experience these difficulties, but not as bad as what the people of Palestine are facing. And I'm sure all of us, when we see these pictures and we hear about the atrocities and infants being killed and, some very, very, problematic images are coming through and videos are coming through of children's brains being blasted open, 3-month-old, 3 days old babies. So how does South Africa balance the situation, knowing very well that, the government is dead against all these atrocities, but at the same time, people in South Africa are not directly involved. So, briefly, Honorable Minister, how does South Africa manage this situation?
Well, Yunus, I think, look, we with the cause of the Palestine people, I think we are substantively principled, and we subscribe to the most vulnerable in this conflict, which is the Palestine people, that is the dispossessed people. In fact, what we must just be unequivocal is that the land besieged by the state of Israel is Palestine land. So that should be unequivocal. And there has been a territorial annexation of land of the Palestine people by the state of Israel. That view has been cemented, amplified by the recent advisory opinion by the International Court of Justice, which is really your premium, multilateral, in brackets, World Court of Justice. So that's why we have said that we are calling upon the state of Israel and our allies to subscribe to international rules based on international law as espoused by the ICJ. In relation to our bilateral relationship with Israel, I think what we should be clear about is that from the National Arms Control Council, unequivocally, we have not been selling any arms to Israel in accordance to the extent of knowledge at my disposal, and we do that because we subscribe to a doctrine not to fuel or enhance a conflict where there's civilian loss of life, and in this case with the Palestine people exceeding 40,000, as recorded there. That's notwithstanding that amongst the debris of thousands of acres of land, we do anticipate that obviously the death toll will rise. So that's the first thing. The second issue, is the bilateral economic trade with Israel has obviously been centered on coal brigades, grapes, and diamonds, and it have over the past years seen a decrease at the annualized rate as it relates to our bilateral trade, because obviously it's important for South Africa to recalibrate its own economic fortunes. But at the same time, we should be very mindful not to send a dual signals, to the Israeli state that, look, we want to upscale our economic ties with you, even though we have been the chief complainant against your conduct as it relates to the plight of the Palestinian people. So we want to be principled. And obviously, it will reflect at a detail level. In terms of your bilateral economic trade, also, Yunus, that the Israeli airlines have, ceased to, have taken, obviously, a unilateral decision not to have direct flights to and from South Africa. And we do appreciate that has a relationship with our principled decision to stand on the side of and to be on the right side of Israel. So on our support for the self-determination of the Palestinian people, there is no money that will buy our decisions that is based on righteousness, that is based on principle, and that is based on our value proposition as South Africa to the rest of the world, that we have been colonized, we have been subjected to the terrain of apartheid, and this is a mirror image of what we have experienced. The Palestinian people are experiencing the same plight.
Minister Alvin Botis, I want to congratulate both you, the former Minister Naledi Pandor, the current Minister Lamola of Turco, for standing up for the rights of our brothers and sisters in Palestine. I want to mention to you that we are mindful that not all citizens of Israel are in support of these atrocities. It is the Zionists under the leadership of Netanyahu that have caused this, but the stance that you have taken together with your colleagues is very meritorious, and it's in line with the approach that we Muslims take in terms of our Islamic law, that we have to take a particular approach and stick to that approach. And we really thank you for the effort that you've put in, and continue to thank you that you will make sure that Palestine is free, and then we will be peaceful. I'd like to take this opportunity of thanking you for joining us at short notice. Really appreciated. Imran Subrati values your input in Parliament, him being a new MP there, on behalf of the ANC, and he's learning a lot from, his elders there, and he regards you as one of the elders. That, Palestine is close to the heart of a lot of our people in South Africa. And, we really appreciate your support. And they say, from an Islamic perspective, that if any part of your body is hurt, the entire body feels the pain. And we believe that the ANC-led GNU adopts the same principle, that if our brothers and sisters are martyred in Palestine, we feel the pain here. And may you and your colleagues continue with the humanitarian initiatives. And we as an NGO, the Al-Ansar Foundation, and other NGOs in South Africa are fully behind the initiatives you are taking, Minister Botis. Thanks very much for joining us, and have a successful evening, and indeed a successful new term of office in Parliament.
No, thank you very much, Yunus. And once again, let me appreciate, this voice of reasoning from Radio Al-Ansar, just to reaffirm and restate to our people that post the elections, the government policy on solidarity with the Palestinian people remains fortified, remains based on principle. And we are not going to neglect, the struggle for righteousness, for self-determination and social justice up until the Palestinian people are being affirmed their right of self-determination. So thank you very much to you.
No, it's a pleasure having you, and we once again thank you and wish you everything of the best. We will be in touch with you in future interviews, Honorable Mr. Alvin Botis.
Inshallah.
Good evening. That was the Deputy Minister of DIRCO, Honorable Mr. Alvin Botis. He gave some very inspiring remarks on the Palestinian issue, and he's given confidence to us in South Africa that South Africa will continue with the struggle for the freedom of our Palestinian brothers and make sure that Israel is held to account in terms of the ICJ. So basically, I've just got a note here that basically our Facebook viewers, this program is live and we can basically, catch the program live on Facebook. We're going to wrap up our interview this evening, but we'll take a short break and inshallah for the next 15 minutes, we'll wrap up. Brother Imran, are you still on the line?
Yes, I'm still with you, Yunus.
Yes, and I just thought before we take a break, normally we complete our program 15 minutes after 10 or 20 minutes because we got the liberty of no programs after 10. So we continue, and I see you still on the line. But congratulations to you for bringing in Minister Alvin Botis. He gave us a lot of confidence in the remarks from a ministerial angle. And he reassured the people of South Africa and indeed those that are listening around the globe with us that South Africa will continue with the support of the people of Palestine and continue applying pressure through the ICJ to ensure that these atrocities are dealt with appropriately and that, the people reclaim their land in Palestine and indeed Israel be held accountable for all these atrocities. Perhaps you just want to comment, being the Secretary General of, Palestine, United for Palestine. What's your take in what Minister Botis mentioned?
Well, alhamdulillah, this is exactly what we've been asking for from the minister and from the government is to, whilst I mentioned earlier, we have been assured by all levels of the leadership of government. But even Deputy Minister Alvin Botis, even mentioned to me, he said, Imran, we have to give comfort to the people and reassurance. And I think this was important for this evening, for us to hear it from the Deputy Minister's mouth himself. And I just want our listeners to appreciate the context. As I mentioned, between 7 to 9 p.m., he was busy with a Palestinian delegation. He used 30 minutes to travel back to take this call. And this is the commitment and the passion the ANC, the Government of National Unity, and the Deputy Minister has for the people of Palestine. And as Secretary General of United for Palestine, on behalf of myself and Abdul Volodi, our President, we want to invite Deputy Minister Alvin Botis to Durban. I think we have not hosted a massive march in Durban, and it's time we recalibrate the conversation and the solidarity with Palestine. And I'm also inviting yourself and Radio Al Ansar and the viewers out there, inshallah. We're going to bring down Deputy Minister Alvin Botis and as many as officials as possible. But specifically, I will invite Deputy Minister Alvin Botis to be our guest, inshallah, at a forthcoming march that we want to host jointly in Durban. We haven't been doing it, and I think Durbanites are very passionate about the cause of Palestine, and I think it's time we take to the streets and we say, free Palestine, that in our millions and in our billions, we are all Palestinians. And as United for Palestine always says, that we will never rest until Palestine is free. And thank you, Yunus, also for hosting the Honorable Deputy Minister and having me on your show. I really appreciate this opportunity to interact with your audience.
No, and I thank you, Imran, amidst your busy schedule in Cape Town. I know how it is in the cold weather out there. It's not easy to walk around and chat and, with your busy schedule, and you took the time off to actually facilitate this interview, and Minister Alvin Botis gave those that are listening a lot of support, and we certainly would welcome him in Durban, not only for the march, but any programs we're having for him to be our guest speaker, because we are planning a workshop for the 7th of September, and if he's available, it would be ideal to have him, where we're inviting about 25 big NGOs to chat about the role of our communities in improving service delivery in South Africa, and indeed in Tekwani in particular, because people, we discussed that subject early on. So Imran, thanks very much for joining us. I know you need to, I'm sure you must have read Isha, and you need to have some rest and catch a sleep. I'm not sure in the cold whether you'll be able to fall off to sleep quickly, but we know that you're a valuable member on behalf of the Muslim community in the national legislature. So we trust and hope that you will keep in touch with us from time to time and enable us to talk to the leadership, of government in different aspects of political leadership, as well as government service delivery. Imran, all the best. Shukran for joining us. Inshallah, we'll get in touch with you in the near future. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. That was Brother Imran Sabrati. We know Imran is a well-known individual in KZN. He's involved with various civic organizations, and we will keep in touch with him in the future to ensure that, he gives us updates. And, there's some comments coming through that Salam's very glad that the GNU government is still in support of Palestine. Alhamdulillah, all praise belong to Allah. Excellent program. This is our sort of function for today, and every Wednesday is to inform our people out there throughout the country and keep them informed on current issues, whether it's Palestine, So I think it's very important that listeners give us a feedback, like what's happening. Brother Frank Hay is a regular listener from Pietermaritzburg, and he's saying great discussion, Brother Yunus. This is what we are here for. What they're saying, Netanyahu's date with B-Town celebs. So, I think, people that commit wrong and really become murderers, they will pay dearly in time to come, as Mufti Ibrahim Smith was mentioning earlier on. So we must not feel despondent on what's happening. The power of du'as are essential. But I want to wrap up in the next 5 minutes, and I want our economist and asset manager to come in, Hassan. Hassan, obviously you've been hearing the reaction from an economic perspective. There's a lot of increase in tourism in South Africa. People are wanting to now get involved in investments in the country, particularly in the North Coast, in KZN, and foreign investment is coming in because they got confidence in South Africa, and the fact that the ANC is still in control in the GNU and they're subscribing to improving service delivery. I'm sure from an economic perspective, we should be seeing light at the end of the tunnel.
Sure. There's a couple of key aspects. So firstly, in terms of, I think, KZN, Western Cape, Gauteng, there's a couple of the key provinces and the key economies have the ability to sort of turn things around positively. It will take time, but I think the small steps and baby steps will go a long way over the next, particularly over the next 2 to 3 years. So firstly, tourism you highlighted. It can unlock the amount of employment opportunities, the amount of investment that comes into the country, and also the amount of spend that comes from foreign tourists is we must not underestimate that. You've seen quite a bit of that in the Western Cape, but the KZN could potentially, over the next 5 to 10 years, be a major tourist center in South Africa. Get our beaches in order by making sure that firstly the pollution issues, the issues around the sewerage and that there's a reduction in that, and that our beaches become again that blue flag status, which we were known for many years, and only in the last 3 years or so we've had these challenges. And you get that right, the tourist numbers will flock in. Secondly, the North Coast and the South Coast, the amount of opportunities and spending that's going to be taking place in those areas over the next 5 to 10 years is massive. So you're getting hotels that are coming up. You're getting whole new precincts that are coming up in terms of apartments and villas and the like that will come up in those areas. That creates opportunities for tourists to come and stay in those areas, but also for those areas to develop and communities opportunities to come through, employment and the like could come through. So the North Coast and the South Coast in particular could see massive development over the next 5 to 10 years and draw huge. I mean, Club Med, one of the biggest, one of the big, tour and hoteliers, especially with this all-inclusive type of holidays, they're setting up in the North Coast over the next 2 years. And there's other hotels and other resorts that could come up going forward. Thirdly, let us not underestimate two key parts of our economy, the mining sector and the agricultural sector. The mining sector will pick up. Iron ore prices are starting to pick up again. We are a big exporter of iron ore. We export it to China and other places, but we are a big player, a reasonably big player, and we've seen iron ore prices coming up. That will help us. You've seen some improvement in terms of platinum prices. It's been tough, but there's been improvement. And gold has been strong, but gold we've obviously declined in terms of gold production. But platinum still remains a key area. Iron ore is big, and coal still remains a major export for us. So I think that should continue and improve because our rail transport will improve, our ports will improve, and our road infrastructure will improve. And as you see small improvements in that, the volumes pick up and it benefits in terms of hard currency coming back into the country. On the agricultural side, yes, we've had, unfortunately, I think Allah is, He gives us rain, He gives us drought, He gives us whatever it may be. And we've had, massive amounts of rain, be it in the Western Cape and in other areas as well. That does impact certain of the crops and so. But I think, if you're looking forward, crops and agriculture remain a key aspect. And if you look at some of our big exports, whether grapes, citrus and the like, the citrus season is in force at the moment. We're going in towards December, you'll get some of the other, fruit that will come into play, whether it's strawberries or grapes and the like, that will also start to come in. It's a big exporter, it's a big foreign earner for us. That will continue to play a meaningful part for this country. And don't also underestimate the area around cattle and beef production and sheep production. Saudi has opened their doors to us after a number of years. They are now allowing imports of beef into the country from South Africa, and it's a big market. When we go for Hajj or Umrah, you can just see majority of the meat in Saudi in terms of lamb and beef is imported, and mainly from the likes of Australia and USA. South Africa could become a meaningful exporter into Saudi Arabia over the next 5 to 10 years. Again, opportunities for this country. It's still going to be a tough road ahead. I think over the next 2 years, the GNU and the political parties are going to try to make some effort in the lead up towards the municipal elections that will take place. They're going to try. There's going to be a bit of effort to try and get certain things going. You saw the Minister of Police, Senzo Imshuno, talking today. Yesterday, there was a police commissioner around. They're trying to address and eradicate some of the issues around the extortion mafias and the like. Eastern Cape was one of the hotspots they've talked about in the last 2 to 3 days. I think there's going to be a bit more focus around that. There was a relaxation and a lapse and non-committal for that, but you've seen in the last few months the police have been active. They've been active. For the first time in a long time, we've seen arrests. We've seen, killing of certain of the suspects, which is in self-defense. But you've seen an increase in activity in policing and addressing some of the serious crimes. And hopefully that will continue. You get a reduction in crime. You get a reduction in corruption. You get a reduction in terms of maladministration. The impact of that in terms of the economy and confidence can be monumental. So let us not underestimate that. And so I think, cautiously optimistic that as we're going, towards the end of this year and moving towards 2025, we should see some improvement going forward as well.
No, well presented, Hassan. I mentioned earlier that Netanyahu's date with B-Town celebs. Somebody sent a picture through. These are Bollywood, celebs that are proudly taking a picture with Netanyahu, the war criminal, the sadist, the murderer. Now, it's becoming abundantly clear that South Africa has taken a stand, and because they faced the atrocities of the apartheid government in the past. So, we in South Africa must appreciate the stand of the government, because the stand they took, it was a humanitarian stand, and, they ran the risk of, having economic sanctions and other problems, because the entire West is supporting Netanyahu, notwithstanding, these reports that are going through, and we know, UN resolutions, etc., haven't supported it. So we in a country where we appreciate, as a minority, the support of the government of the day. And as Hassan pointed out, it is not only the JNU that caused positive sentiment, it is a commitment, as Minister Alfred Bote says, of the ANC-led government of national unity that has resulted in change in South Africa. And we know in the apartheid struggle, by having the world boycotting South Africa in terms of sports and economic sanctions, etc., there was change. So inshallah, with the stand the South African government has taken, we have to, as minorities, appreciate the stand they've taken. And it is a stand in the right direction. Before I close, I have an unsung hero with me in the studio, Brother Abdul Valodia, the chairman of United for Palestine. And he's the chairperson of the Overport Ratepayers Association. And this association was launched, less than 12 months ago at the Al-Ansar premises. And we had an interaction with the NGO. And from the feedback I'm getting, there has been a lot of improvements in service delivery in and around this area. And Abdul Valodia, being a businessman, has spent a lot of his personal resources in ensuring that there's interaction with government, both at national, provincial, and local level, to improve service delivery. So I'd like to welcome Abdul Valodia in the studio. Abdul, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and thank you for joining us live on Radio Al-Ansar International.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi, Yunus, and thank you for having me on.
And, Abdul, sometimes you get humble individuals that do a great piece of work, and only individuals like us understand the velocity of the work that you've done and your commitment to joining us and ensuring that we have access to some of the senior leaders in politics. And, we know very well that through your encouragement and through your mentoring and initiatives, you brought Imran Subrati on board, and together with his dedication, you were able to ensure that one of our Muslim brothers has been, nominated in parliament and is doing excellent work. Now, this all started from grassroots level, and I think Narayan Ganesh and indeed Hassan, and we were talking about this in the past, that we have to make sure that our civic structures are strong, our ratepay associations are strong, because they provide the oversight role for government to deliver, and indeed the struggle for liberation of Palestine.
Agreed. See, Yunus, organizations, play a very vital role in society. And, as I said, I think I did mention last time, first of all, we must thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for whatever we've achieved.
Most certainly.
Right? Because he's the person that's all knowing and all seeing. And, it takes a person, just few people, that, wakes up and decides that they can do something, to better society, to make society much better from where it is. And it's a lot of hard work, has to be dedication. And, people should take a role of, getting involved with society, with activism, right? Because a lot of things you can achieve. I mean, look at the reality, Imran Subrati, where he comes from, Overport, an area, not too far from, he actually lives in Asheville, right?
Which is a kilometer or two away from Overport.
Yes. I mean, he is the only Muslim and he's the only Indian in South Africa, which is in KZN. That's a now honorable member of parliament, and born from here and born from activism, which is from United for Palestine and Overport Ratepayers Association member as well. It had to take work to get something happening. And as a matter of fact, I can say this on air. clearly. I was also given a position in the ANC to be a member of parliament as well. And from the number that I was given as well, I would have been in. That was guaranteed. And I decided that I will not take a seat because I said, listen, I would not work, into any organization as far as government because I don't, I'm not looking for a salary. We're not looking for money or handouts. We need to get accountability, and I'm prepared to work with the ANC, work with them together to change the society and to help people. Like how Hassan has, actually mentioned, in his closing, regarding the, the issue of SAPs, what you're seeing happening in crime now. I can assure you because, I've been for the ratepayers meeting that took place with all the ratepayers associations. And prior to the meeting, I got a phone call directly from the mayor's offices and say, Comrade Abdul, what do you think in the short notice if we can have, a ratepayer association meeting with all the ratepayers together? You think it will happen? I said, Comrade, we don't try it. You know what? We'll never know. And trust me, Thursday we got the call. Friday was a meeting. Was it a Friday, I think, right? And we had a full house. All ratepayers association was present to meet the new mayor. It was a very progressive meeting. And I can tell you something, you can see a change from something that, from the previous to now. The new mayor, he is actually a very highly decorated person, and he's not new. He might be new as a mayor, but not new in the structures of the ANC. And he was deployed from Ramaphosa himself to come to KZN and fix up the mess. That's his role. Meeting started at 5 o'clock, and we finished off there just past 10. I have not seen a mayor sit from that time to that time and, to address congregation, to address the, every question and answers that he answered. And I can assure you from what interaction that we had, he's dedicated to fix up the city, to make sure the city of KZN, Tekwini functions and works. And you can see the progress, how they're starting to clean up places. And all I can say is that the one thing that they mentioned as well, with regards to society, with regards to our people are also the causes of a lot of the issues that we see in our areas. I myself, being the chair of the organization, we always see people dumping themselves and we keep on blaming paras. But they are the main culprits that's happening here. So society has to play also a very important role of keeping our areas clean. We cannot keep on blaming government and saying, they failed X, Y, and Z. Yes, it happened in the past. We won't say no. But I can tell you there's something very bright that's going to happen. And I can foresee that the Tekwini will come back to the roots of what it used to be when you used to be the Yunus, hopefully. Because the people has also, that's in that system now, and trying to fix it. So all we can say, we can hope and pray that the changes will come. And, when we look at Imran being in parliament, I can tell you there's a lot of, exciting things that he shares with me, right as well, with regards to how the checks and balances happen. So accountability now is something new. It's unlike the past, like what was going on. Now, every person that we see, within the new structure and also the PECs, which is the local, councillors there as well, accountability every corner. So we hope and pray that this new, ANC-led GNU will make a huge impact and huge difference for the community. And the community is the parties that will benefit. For example, ORA, the Overport Ratepayers Association. We also filed an objection regarding the NERSA 40% increase, right? Now, these things there, can you imagine somebody's going to end up paying 40% higher?
When they can't afford the existing tariffs.
When they can't afford it, right. But what happens to our people, Yunus? They all sit back, keep quiet. Nobody does anything about it. Now, it has to take some sort of organization. And they must thank people like us as the Overport Ratepayers Association, plus many other ratepayers associations that's there defending, communities. And we work, on our own funding, right? We don't get paid from anybody. And this job here is a thankless job. right? But we don't look for gratitude. We look at blessings from the Almighty. That's what we look at.
Abdul just summed it up, and I know we don't have time to discuss much, and we've been harping about the strength of ratepayer associations, civic organizations, civic structures, NGOs, because he mentioned it's a thankless job. People are not being paid high salaries. Councillors are being paid high salaries. MPs are being paid high salaries, but the commitment that is required is not there. So the ratepayer associations and civic associations can provide an oversight and hold these political office bearers accountable. So we will continue with these discussions, in future programs. And I know there's a lot of issues still outstanding, but every week we touch on different issues to create the awareness. And we're going to look at workshops where we're going to start, empowering people to form ratepayer associations, but also to ensure that we take cognizance of what are the needs of our communities out there. And if we're talking about non-racialism, we're talking about the best person for the job. And amongst our communities, there are a lot of young professionals that are unemployed, having degrees in engineering, in town planning, in accounting, in architecture, and various different forms of education, but they don't have opportunities because of the job reservation of positions. And the president has made it clear that the job must be given to the best person for the job. And then that's where the Ratepayer Association comes in. So I'm glad to hear from Brother Abdul the initiatives taken by various ratepayers to meet with the mayor. I know the mayor from his couple of months in office has committed to improve service delivery. We have to work with the government structures and take up issues with them. And inshallah, we will continue with these discussions going forward. We will have regular workshops with the non-governmental associations. And ultimately, it is the community involvement that will improve service delivery ultimately, because it's not only about government, it's about various other issues like the Palestinian issue that became a talking point in this evening's program and in future programs. So on that note, we went half an hour over our time today, but it was necessary. We interviewed many people. We thank our guests that joined us this evening. We thank our technician, Monley, for handling the technical side most efficiently. On a closing note, as we all realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in control of the entire universe, we have to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But to get the attention of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to lead a righteous life in our personal manner. And the way to do it is to obey Allah's commandments as shown to us by Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, to keep up with our salah, to keep up with our zikrullah, our tilawatul Quran. But very important is this need to assist humanity, no matter what religion, no matter what color. If a humanitarian is in need, we have to respond, whether it's feeding, whether it's providing hampers, and this is where the Al Ansar Foundation comes in. We are here to assist the people in whichever way and form. Some people may need counseling, some people may need a few words. So we have to work closely with the different organizations, provide the support to the community to improve people's lives in various forms. On that note, we are bringing closure to this evening's program. We will be back on air next Wednesday, at 8 o'clock. Until then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.